Yeah, the typhoon out in the Western Pacific is finally starting to fall apart over Western China right now. Really brought a lot of devastation to that area, and in fact, it was one of the strongest we've seen in the last several years in that area. Luckily, really beginning to dissipate at the current moment. But if we switch back to the Atlantic, we're following two areas of interest. One has already developed into a tropical storm. We have Humberto right in here, well east of the islands right here. And then the other area of interest is actually crossing over the Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico right now. This area is expected to move into the Bahamas and into the Turks and Caicos here over the next couple of days. And this is expected to become the next name on the Atlantic hurricane list, which is Imelda. And the question is what is the interaction going to be between these two cyclones right here? There's various different scenarios that can take place here as these two storms go to the north. So here's Humberto. We're expecting it to become a major hurricane sometime this weekend, and then likely turning out somewhere between the Outer Banks of North Carolina and Bermuda. But the question is, how will this other storm, future Imelda, impact the scenario here? And I think there's a couple of different scenarios that we can quickly go over here. We're going to be potentially seeing a rare phenomena in the Atlantic called the Fujiwara effect. And this is when two cyclones get within about 850 miles of one another. And if they're both pretty strong, they can kind of rotate around one another, which is a pretty rare phenomena in the Atlantic basin. It's not too often that you get these two cyclones close together. So here's scenario one. If the storm to the east, Humberto, is much stronger than the storm that comes out into the Bahamas, Humberto might just absorb the other storm. The weaker storm just gets pulled into Humberto, and this is the better case for the United States, as this would suck all the moisture and winds towards Humberto and then out to sea. A more concerning scenario is more if both storms are a little bit stronger. Humberto's pretty strong, and then you have Imelda, which is pretty strong as well, potentially. That can allow the storms to remain a little bit more separate and then maybe begin to turn a little bit around each other. But anyway, this scenario would be a little bit more of a concern for the east coast of the United States, mainly up in the Carolinas area, as that could allow the storm to potentially push into that area. The timing of that would likely be at the start of next week. So I think everybody along the East Coast from Florida all the way up into the Carolinas needs to watch this setup very, very carefully, as it's an extremely complex setup. When you have two cyclones very close to one another, the tracks can be very erratic and they can behave very erratically. We could have this storm come in and potentially stall across the Carolinas. There's a lot of different scenarios that we're going to have to watch out for. So it's important to follow the forecast over the next couple of days very carefully.